So for the next couple weeks, we're going to be using Pygame. The textbook author does a really fantastic job of walking you through creating this game. And he actually does it the exact same way that I would do it. He breaks it into small pieces, explains what the code is doing, does an absolutely fantastic job. You are going to be working through these 3 chapters. You do not need to complete the try it yourself exercises. What I did in the lecture, I don't have videos with this because everything is explained pretty well. And most of what you're doing in here, you guys are familiar with. To build this game, you are using classes and inheritance. If that is something that you are struggling with, I would go back to chapter 9 and review. What I've done in this project overview is I've kind of gone through and summarized some of the key points in each of the chapters. Also included downloads for the graphics that you need in chapter 12 and 13. As you are working through the projects, if there is some code that you're not following, in chapter 13, creating a grid of aliens. And so if that is confusing to you, you can actually throw in some print statements. You'll notice I commented them out, but if you put the print statements in when you run the game, it will show you what's going on. And that is helpful for understanding. So when we go through chapter 12, it basically deals with creating the ship. The ship has its own class, creating the bullets, which also have their own class. You'll create your main game interface. You'll create a settings class. Okay, basically setting up for the game. When I went through the chapter, this code did not work properly. And so basically what the code is supposed to do is when I'm running the game, when I click on the X to exit out, it was not working. And I had to change the code to this to get it to work. Okay, so that's just kind of a heads up. That's really the only issue I found in all 3 chapters. And it's not that big of an issue because later on in chapter 12, they have you display the game in a full screen and press the letter Q to quit. That kind of makes this irrelevant. Okay, if you're going to display it in a full screen and press Q to quit, you aren't going to use the X to get out of it. The only other adjustment you're probably going to have to make is that in VS Code, when we open the 228 folder, okay, and that is the location that we're at, okay, in our terminal, then in order to get to the graphics that we've downloaded and put into an images folder, we have to put the alien invasion folder /images/ and then the name. So we have to adjust the path a little bit. Okay, that's the only other adjustment that I had to make. In order to use Pygame, you do have to install it. So when I installed it, and that was the command I used, I did get a little warning that my pip version is old. So pip is the package manager for Python. I went ahead and upgraded pip. So if you guys run into that same issue, you can go ahead and upgrade pip so that you have the most current version. Then, as far as the game concepts, the init method is basically a constructor. And we kind of learned that when we covered classes. So this is kind of the same type of thing. Every element on the game is considered to be a surface. And so that's kind of a new concept. But you can kind of read through here, and I did try to explain some of these bigger concepts. And as far as color goes, anytime you're changing the color in Pygame, it uses an RGB value, red, green, and blue. And so I did include a link so that you can kind of play around with mixing colors. As far as the game graphics go, the textbook author likes BMP files. I don't like those as well because they do have colored backgrounds. I much prefer Ping, which have transparent backgrounds. If you use BMP, you end up having to change the background color of the graphics so that it matches whatever your background is. If you have a Ping graphic, it's transparent background, so you don't have to worry about that. These are different sites that you can get graphics at. These are all Creative Commons sites, and so they are royalty free, and you are able to use those, and you don't have to worry about, plagiarism or anything like that. Now, I did grab a different rocket ship at Pixabay, and I was able to load it in. And it came in way too big, which is not unusual. So I did have to add another line of code to scale down that graphic. Okay, but once I scaled it down, it was fine. Other thing that's interesting about Pygame is that basically everything that is on your screen is considered to be a rectangle. And the screen itself is a rectangle. And so, if you have a 1200 by 800 screen, this is kind of the coordinates if you're looking at your XY coordinates. All of this is pretty self-explanatory. Chapter 13 does get into collision detection, so I do cover a couple of the methods used to check for collisions. The way that the aliens are placed in the game is actually kind of cool, because if you run the game on different screens, you're going to have enough different number of columns of aliens and rows because it's done mathematically. So this kind of explains how they are doing the calculation, how they figured it out. And at the end of chapter 13, I am providing you with files that you can compare to. Not that you're going to have any errors, but if you did, if something wasn't working and you just couldn't figure it out, this is what at least the alien.py code should look like. Okay, and this is what the bullet code should look like at the end of this chapter. So I've kind of done it for all of them. Some of the bigger files, like this one, you'll notice that it has a little plus sign. So you actually have to click to zoom in to see the code. Okay, but it does give you an idea of what that code looks like. So you can kind of compare. Chapter 14 does get into scoring, and the scoring system is fairly extensive. There are levels in this game, so it displays the levels. It displays the high score. It actually displays how many ships you have left. And if you collide with aliens, you lose your ships. A lot going on. So because we are now getting into displaying text, you will be using pygame.font. So we kind of explain a little bit about that. We get into creating a start button. And so you do have to be able to, notice where the mouse is in relation to the button. The button is a rectangle. And if the mouse position intersects with the rectangle and you have pressed a mouse button, then you start the game. So this is kind of all explained. It's explained in the chapter and I highlight it in here. And so as you go through this, these are just different key points that are in this particular chapter. And then we get into some additional Python commands. The format method is new. You can use it to format your numbers. In your regular coding, you may just want to do formatting with the F string because that's probably going to be easier. So after the variable that you want to print, you just do a colon and then give it the formatting that you want to use. So to me, that's a little bit easier. So putting a comma here will put a comma in your numbers. If you have floating point numbers and you only want 2 decimals and you want commas, you do a comma dot 2F. Okay. If you have percentages and you want 2 decimals, it's .2%. Pretty flexible. Then we get down here, final program files. So when you are all done with chapter 14, these are the files that you should be turning in. So if you compare what you have to what's in here, they should pretty much be the same. And your game is going to look similar to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. So you can see I did choose a little different spaceship. And I'm going to play. I'm terrible at this game, and I honestly should have slowed these down or made bigger bullets. Because on this wide screen, I have way too many aliens. It won't take me long. I'm going to end up dying. And then when my poor little ship collides, which it's going to do shortly, like right now, I lose one of my ships and then it come back down. All of these settings can be changed. So, you know, if you have something like me and you can't win, you know, you can. So I'm going to quit and get out, but that is basically what your game is going to look like. And once you're done, you're going to upload the thing to GitHub. Okay, and then you're going to come into the Dropbox and indicate that you're done. So these are the requirements for the game project. Do your own game, and it can be similar to the Alien project. So, you know, if you're short on time, or you maybe struggled a little bit with the Alien project, I don't know that I would deviate too far. You certainly can do something similar. It does need to be your own work, but you know, instead of doing just ships shooting aliens, you could do a bucket catching a raindrop. So, you know, raindrop is kind of like a bullet, it's just going the other direction. You know, you can do something like that, or you can do a bucket catching apples, you know. However, whatever twist you want to put on the game. So I did put several examples in here. If you wanted to do a spaceship, you can move it to its side and make a side shooter. You know, so then instead of moving it horizontal, you're going to be moving it up and down. Okay, so there's other variations that you can do. If you are going to do some kind of a spaceship, then you do need to pick a different alien graphic, or maybe go for like an asteroid or a star, something that is different that you can shoot at. If you wanted to do a completely different game, like some take on a snake game or a different type of, there's a lot of different choices. I actually included some tutorials here to give you guys ideas. But, you know, if you wanted to do a take on Pong, any of these, or Tetris, any of those types of games, you can, but it has to be your own work. So I think it's easier to do your own work if you're doing something similar to the Alien game. As long as it is your own work, you will be okay. And I don't mind if you guys look at tutorials, that is perfectly okay. Looking at videos is okay, but the project needs to be your own. So the variable names have to be your own. The class names have to be your own. The graphics need to be your graphics. Don't go to somebody's GitHub repository and download the repository and turn it in as your project, because I will know and you will get a 0. Whatever you guys decide to do, it just needs to be your own work. And as far as plagiarism goes, make sure you use Creative Commons graphics and you should be okay. If you cannot find a ping graphic that you like, as long as it's a royalty-free graphic, if you send it to me, I will convert it for you. I have Photoshop, and I am pretty good at converting images. So I'd be happy to do that for you and send it back. As far as the minimum project requirements for this project are simpler than the Alien project. You do have to have a background color or graphic. You do need to set your screen size. You need some kind of a keyboard command or the X button to close your game. You have to have a object sprite or sprite group that you can move with the mouse or the keyboard. You have to have at least 2 additional sprite groups, okay? And in our game, it would be aliens and bullets, or 1 additional sprite group, and then you've added sound effects or random sprite positioning or random sprite sizing, something like that. Sprite and sprite groups should include movement. You should be checking the boundaries so that they stay on the screen. And if you're shooting something, you know, like bullets or whatever it is that you're shooting, and that goes off the screen, that's perfectly fine. You just need to make sure that you also remove it from the game. If your sprites collide, they should also be removed, unless you're designing your game so that they're not removed, in which case you just let me know. You do need a start button, simple scoring. So that means that you don't have to have levels. You do not need to store a high score unless you want to. And you should have a definite end to your game so people know when they're done playing. Your game should be well organized. So you should not have one big, humongous file, okay? So all of these sprites need to be in separate files. You should have a setting file, you know, kind of organize it similar to what we did in the Alien project. If you have a method that is doing too much, then it should be refactored. When you are done, you're gonna upload the project to GitHub. If you're not sure if a game is going to meet the requirements or you want to do something that's a little bit different, just run it by me, okay? And we can work something out. Once you are done with the game, you are going to videotape the project and share it with the class. It's going to be your showcase. So you're going to demonstrate how to play the game. And while you're demonstrating, you're going to explain the type of problems you encountered, how you resolved those problems, and you were going to do another version of your game. What improvements would you make? And then you're going to take the video and you will post it to the discussion forum. So once you're done with the game, you're going to submit a link in the Dropbox to your GitHub repo, and then you will be posting the video to the discussion forum. And that's all you have to do. So when you come in here, there is an icon for a video, not record though. Where is it? Insert or edit. Okay, and you'll select video, you'll have to upload it. But that is how you're going to get the video in your posting. And then what people will do a week after is they're going to review all of the videos, and they're just going to indicate the name of the game, what they liked, and any suggestions they have for future releases. So if you guys have questions, you run into problems, please let me know. I did include all of the Pygame documentation. This is all in a PDF. Everything that was at the website is in that PDF. I also included several different tutorials. This first one is actually pretty good. This link has text with the videos. And then these are just the individual videos. So if there's something that you wanted to know more about, you certainly could select, you know, whatever video you're interested in. Here is a video that shows you how to do a 2-player game. This is how to build a snake program, and this shows you how to do 5 different games. Okay, and again, just make sure that it is your own work. And I am super excited to see what you guys are going to produce. I want you guys to have fun with this. If you have questions or you've run into problems, please let me know, and have a great couple weeks.